Well, doesn't that make it fun?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I was doing it in last class.
Isn't it rewarding when you have a weird error and then you just kind of figure it out in the end?
Yeah, hey, and use your stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What
a reference?
Huh?
Mine just kind of like I
That way,
restarted
if
it
you
on
find
my
something that doesn't look
desktop,
and I hit something, you can look at it
and
and
it
go,
just kind of
oh,
worked.
what other ways can
I don't know how I fixed the error. I got it one time and then it just worked.
I heard it. You wasn't doing it at all.
The EXC bad instruction.
Yeah.
I did it like I still have it here. I just
Is that on the let cur row?
Yeah, the let cur row.
Yeah, if you go to like your files and go to the interface controller, because that was the problem I was having.
We didn't have it hooked up?
No, I had it hooked up. It's just under the. So now, look at like the actual view for it. Yeah. And now click cell.
Well, I'm not keeping up with anything. Apparently, my Xcode hasn't updated.
It should be
Xcode
should be Dice Kit Watch app or something. Yeah, that should be changed from.
All right. So let's start looking at this. So let's see. What was your... So I have this thing rolling, D100s. What was your homework supposed to do?
That.
Oh, the same thing as this, but have different images?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go find a couple of images. Dice images. Let's go. Let's just. Do I already have? What do I already have? A D20. Okay, so I need a D4. No, nice. D4 dice. All right, this one should work. Save image. We're going to call this guy D4. All right, and then we need a D6. Perfect. This is D6. Then we need a D8. Whatever, this will work. This is my D8. Then we need a D10. This is my D10. And then I need a D12. This is my D12. I already have a D20, right? So now I need a D100. See, look, I told you they exist. D100 dice. Oh, yeah.
But it's not really a dice at that point.
Well, I know, I told you, it's like hard to get it to... See, look, it's like a giant jawbreaker. But here it is. D100 and my D20. Okay, should be good there. So I'm going to get rid of Qbert. Well, actually, we'll leave him there for right in a second. All right. Okay, so first thing you need to do is you need to go ahead and bring your images into your project. So I'm going to add files to Dice Roller. I'll go to my downloads. And here's all my new dice that I just got. We already have the D20 in there. Make sure that it's added to both your WatchKit app and your extension. That was something we ran into earlier with Beyonce, that he had his file down here in the extension and he didn't have access to the images from the app. So add them to both of your WatchKit targets so you'll have access to them in both Interface Builder, where our interfaces were up here, the storyboard, and then also down here. All right, so these guys are all attached to both of those guys. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we need to, through our code, or table example, I have all of these dice. Actually, why don't I'm going to steal these label names. Can I do a lowercase string? You know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to change all my D's to lowercase d. That way they just happen to match my strings. Alright, so set the number of rows. For each row, I just made it for every other row. We'll have we'll set the image. But now what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and set our row with an image named label names at bucket I concatenated with .jpg. Oh, no semicolon, but actually won't matter. Alright, so now I should be able to run this. And there's all my dice. Look legit. Alright, so I just used this guy as double duty. Just happened to change the names of my labels to match the names of all my images. And then when I went to set the image, I just grabbed the label name and concatenated on .jpeg. Alright, so in order for this solution to work, you need to make sure you name your images consistently, and also they all need to be .jpegs. Otherwise, this will break pretty quick. Alright, was that all you're supposed to do for the homework? Okay, so now what we want to look at is, so those of you who ran into problems, what were you trying to do? Where you have these null pointer issues. How did you do yours differently?
The only difference that I found after changing, I would change something, run it again, still have a problem. Change something, run it again, and the thing that fixed it was if you go to your row controller, like on the interface, on the interface storyboard, and then pick the cell, and then open like the properties thing on the right, and then not under there, but under the other one, not to the left. Yeah, the module, mine would auto select to like my project name, so dice, instead of the dice watch kit extension.
I see.
Change that, it worked.
All right, so it was having the wrong module underneath it, and it wasn't something you set. It was.
Yeah, that did it automatically. Or it as soon as I changed the class to dice row, then it changed it to the dice, the module to the dice instead of the dice watch kit app.
I understand what you're saying. So let's try this here. So let's just set this guy back to NS object. Let's just see if we can recreate it here. All right, so then it's module none, right? Then we click it, so you would go in and you would change this guy to a, what's this guy called, dice row?
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah. So mine, on both the Max here and mine at home.
It was not setting it to what it just set mine to. It set it to something else.
Yeah, it might have been because when you go and do new file, I did it the same way you did it on the video from yesterday, where you just added it to the extension, but it still gave you the problem. So.
All right. Well, I guess if you can recreate it, let me know. That way we can figure out why it did that, just for our own knowledge moving forward in case we have an issue again. Okay, so this guy should still work, I think. All right. So now, what we want to do next is we want to look at how picker views work. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to, well, we'll make this, let's be a little ghetto, but that's okay. So we're going to go to our interface controller, except I want to go to the storyboard rather. And let's go ahead and give ourselves another interface controller. So we'll do this. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put a group in here. And we're going to set the group to vertical. You don't have to put it in a group, but I almost always end up throwing more things on my interfaces than I initially thought I would. So having a vertical thing rather than a horizontal thing makes me lose less widgets. I've had situations where I launch it and there's a widget off the screen and didn't know it was there because this guy gets kind of quirky. So if I just always have it set to vertical, then it kind of works. I think, can you set the top level thing to vertical? If I click in the back. Doesn't look like it. You gotta go, okay, well, whatever. So what I'm gonna do here is we're going to, so we've already messed with groups, we've already messed with tables, we've already messed with images. Separator is just a visual thing, so you know I'll throw one in here if we want. Back here we'll throw one in our code back here. So I'll go ahead and throw a separator there, which is going to be helpful because we're going to be putting something else on the screen in a little bit. So let me just go ahead and run this so you can see the separator. So all the way at the bottom of these guys, we should have our little line separating our interface from something else. Okay. Now, we've already messed with buttons. We haven't messed with switches or sliders yet. We're going to come back to those. But I want to look at pickers because pickers are kind of similar to our tables. So I'm going to go ahead and create a picker view. All right, so this guy's going to be just sit out here. And then we're going to go ahead and we need to create a, let's call this picker example IC. So we're going to create another, did I say picker or pickle?
I'm not sure.
Could have gone either way in that situation, I think. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new file.
All I know is now I want to pick it.
And this is going to be a WatchKit class. And it's going to be an interface controller. And we're going to call this guy picker example IC. Hit next. I think we can just leave it in the extension. It's still unclear to me the difference between the WatchKit app and what the extension is. From what I gathered from looking at Beyonce's code today was it seems that Interface Builder always looks at app. Your code looks at whatever of these two targets it's in. So if it's part of app or part of extension, it only looks in there. So he had it set up where he programmatically couldn't access his images because they weren't in the same. His code was down here in WatchKit extension in this guy, yet his images were not just where they're located, but which target they were bound to. So when he had added his images, he hadn't added them to the extension. He had added them to the app. So I had them add to both, so you would have access to them in Interface Builder, and you'd also have access to them in the extension code in here. To be honest, I'm not really sure what the difference is at this point, so I need to look into that. But that's the current running theory.
Going off of Apple's documentation, it shows that the WatchKit app is supposed to have the storyboard, and the extension has code. So the watch has storyboard and resources, and then extension has code and resources.
Okay, so pretty kind of what I just said. Yeah. Yep. So in order for images to be available to both, you need to have them attached to both targets. Okay. So I made a pretty decent guess there, Beyonce. Are you paying attention? Are you lying?
No, you're explaining what's going on today.
Okay. So let's go next. So then, having said that, that's probably why it yelled at me when I tried to put that guy in the app. It wants it in the extension because that's where the code lived. So we'll go ahead and create that. So here's my picker example. So before we forget, let's go ahead and let's connect this guy to our picker example IC. All right, so now he's there. And then I want to go ahead and I want to create a outlet for our picker. So I clicked on the yellow dealie there, and then we will control click, and we'll call this guy the picker. So now we have programmatic access to that dude. Okay. Now, the documentation up here. So here's our picker, and we have multiple ways of setting contents for our picker. And our pickers have a function called setItems, which takes in an array of WKPicker items. All right, so the things that will show up in the picker must be WKPicker items. So I'll go ahead and click on WKPicker items, and let's find out what this guy is. Similar to our WK table row, that's what it's called, right? WK table row. WK picker item is a child of NS object. All right. So when we create these guys, a picker item by default has a content image, it has a title, it has an accessory image, and it has a caption. So these are the 4 properties of these guys. So let's go ahead and experiment with this. We're just going to set the title initially. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into our code. And let's go, well, actually, let's do this first. So we quiz you on something. I won't actually have you take a quiz. I'm going to ask you a question. All right, so we have a WK picker. In order for a WK picker to show contents, we have to call his setItems method. Okay, so right now we have a thing called the picker. And this picker, if I run the program right now, has nothing in it because he has 0 items associated with him. So we have to set the items for this guy. So if I click on setItems, the documentation shows it looking like this. So what do I have to build in order to pass it to the picker's setItems function? What kind of animal do I have to build here based on the documentation? We want to build a skill set of being able to read the documentation. Go ahead.
WK picker item.
There's a word missing.
Object.
No.
WK picker item object.
What do these little dudes here mean?
Oh, an array.
Yeah, an array of those guys, right? Okay, so I need to create some WK picker items. I need to shove them into an array, right? And then I can send this array into our setItems function of our WK picker, and then the guy should magically do something. Okay, so let's create some WK picker items. So we're going to go into our picker example. And let's hide this guy. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do this in Awake with context, because this is our first opportunity where we actually have access to the actual widget that is a picker. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's create our array of stuff. So we might move this up here later, but let's just do it locally for right now. So I'm going to create a var called the picker items, and this guy is going to be equal to a WK picker item array, like that. Okay, so I have an empty array, and now, oh, that's just because I haven't used it yet. That's the annoying thing that Swift does. I hate Swift. See, he was making fun of me about the helpful thing. That's right. Okay, so now let's start adding some stuff to this guy. So we're going to go ahead and let's just add one thing. So we're going to say the picker items dot append. The new element we're going to put in here is a WK picker item, All right, and so this is a blank WKPicker item. Now, let's go ahead and let's just set self.thepicker.set, is it items? Set items to the picker items. All right, so the picker items is an array with exactly one element in it that literally has none of its properties set. All right, so let's see what we get from this guy. We need to connect these puppies, right? So let's go here. Nope, storyboard. And Beyonce likes us to do the swipe thing to go between pages, right? Where'd he go? He's had diarrhea?
Yeah.
Good.
Out of his pee.
All right. So let's swipe on over there. All right. So no errors, but nothing in our picker. Okay. There actually is one dude here. We just don't see anything because there's no content. All right. So now let's go ahead, go back to the documentation here. And when we go to WKPicker item, we see that this guy has several properties. One of them is the title. So let's go ahead and set the title for that guy. So we'll go ahead and say the picker items at bucket 0 dot title is equal to title 1. All right, so I set the title for that guy, and then I added the picker items. I could have done those lines in either order. So let's go ahead and run this again. And there's our single title, title 1. Okay. So let's go ahead and put some more picker items in here. So I'm going to throw all this inside of a loop. So we'll say for var I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. We're going to steal these two lines. So we'll go ahead and append to our picker a new picker item. Then we'll access bucket I of that guy. And we'll concatenate onto this I plus 1. That way it'll be title 1, title 2, title 3, title 4, so on and so forth. This should work, right? Oh, yeah. I plus 1 should do it. Okay, so now we'll fill it up with 10 titles. Okay, so we have 10 titles there. All right, now let's go ahead and let's steal this array of label names that we had over here. All right, and instead of going to 10, we're going to say label names.count. We'll create a new item. We'll set the title of that item to label names at bucket I. All right, so that should fill it up with a bunch of D4, D6, D8, D10, D12. So there's our possible picker things. Now notice one of these guys is the one that's front and center at any point in time, kind of highlighted. All right, now going back to the documentation here, we see we also have a content image that we can set. The content image is a WK image. So let's look at what a WK image is. Let's see, image name. So here is a image with image name, and we can give it the name. And this guy is, we can see from here that this is the Objective-C code. This is a class method. All right. Here's the constructor for the guy in Swift, where we can give it the name and it will construct one of these guys for us. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create WK images. Now understand the difference here. So let's go back into our storyboard. This guy right here is a WK interface image. And we set that guy's image equal to, let me actually go into, that was table example, right? Actually, it was dice row. All right, so the image here, this WK interface image, we actually set that guy equal to what? We set it equal to a, nope, it's right here. Well, we set his image equal to an image named something. So this guy was a WK image, not a UI image. So a couple of you were coming and showing me your code for trying to set the image for your buttons, and it's not a UI image. UI image was what the code you found when you looked at Google for an iPhone app in general. A WK image, if we look at the documentation here, let's pick our item. Where's my image? WK image is an NS object, not a UI image. Okay, so WatchKit is this whole new branch that was kind of created not in the image of the way things work on iPhone and iPad. And yeah.
So the UI images for iPhone and iPad?
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think they'll work in WatchKit. I think the issue is they're too heavyweight. There's too much stuff that ends up bogging down the watch. All right, so what we're going to do here is inside of our picker example, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set the picker items. And we want to get, what was the name of the guy? The content image equal to, actually I think we could say dot set this picker, here's our WK image. This guy has a image property. Oh, that's interesting. His image property is a UI image. That seems dangerous. We're going to build a WK image. All right, so we're going to set the content image equal to a WK image dot image. Not like this, right? Oh, yeah, here we go. Image name. And we're going to say label names at bucket I concatenated with .jpeg. So same thing we did in the other place. All right, so we'll set the content image of this guy equal to a brand new WK image named label names.jpg. Okay, so let's see what these images end up looking like in a picker view. Okay, notice that our images are laying on top of the labels. Let me go ahead and spread our picker out. And let's see what things we can set for a picker. So we can set its list to it to be a list, a stack, or a sequence. And we'll look at the difference of those in a few seconds. Focus style is none, or we can have an outline or an outline with caption. We'll look at those. We'll look at indicator as well, see how this changes our thing. Alpha is how see-through it is. We can align it left or top, all that stuff. Size, we can say relative to container or size to fit content. Okay, we're going to try that here in a second. We can. I think they'll both fit, but that's fine. It'll make it a little wider. We might run into a problem with how big the image is, though. Nope. So the image must be a fixed size that's in there. So that's okay.
So when it says size to fit content, what content are you talking about?
Probably the text. Yeah, the text is gigantic. It'll squeeze it in. Let's see. Can we... What's the width of this guy? I want the width of... How wide is the screen? That's what I want to know. Here, we'll find out real quick. Where's my label? Oh, actually, does the separator have a width? .134 is the pixel width of this screen. So I just want to try to force this guy to be 134. And we should see that it's still centered. Okay, so picker views work differently than our views for our tables. So they don't solve the same problem. Our tables allow us to have really a row built however we want to have that row built, where our picker view is really about a matter of showing us an individual value. Okay? Actually, let me do this. Take this. There's my picker. Why isn't my picker showing up on here anymore? All right, so now let's change it to stack. All right, notice now, that's a whole lot cooler, isn't it? Okay, flipping through our pages, so the images now fill out the entire thing.
So you think the label's still behind it?
It definitely is. Yep, label's definitely behind it. Let's mess with the focus style for a second. We might not be able to see it with these images since we didn't alpha those images out very well. So some of them have like white backgrounds and stuff. So we're dealing with very high end. Yep, so you see when I hover over it, it outlines it. All right, outline with caption. Is this going to just tell me like the name of it, or is this going to, maybe this will show me the title. we probably have to set the caption property. Back up here. Here's our caption property. So let's go ahead and set this caption property of a WK picker item and see how captions show up. So we'll go into picker example, and we're going to set the picker items at bucket I dot caption is equal to label names at bucket I. So we'll set the caption equal to the name of our label. So D4, D6, D8, that kind of stuff. And let's see how the caption pops up.
Should pretty legit.
See right above it, it says D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, D20, D100. Kind of slick. Okay. So we're able to kind of get our multiple pieces of information out there without having the title. So we can either just throw images, or you could just throw titles, or we can sort of kind of pull off images with titles with captions. All right, so now let's go back and let's look at a different view for this. So let's look at sequence. So sequence, we kind of lose that animation of the thing almost flowing as a stack.
That's sequence.
This is sequence as opposed to stack. We have this like almost an animation of it sliding in. Okay, so a little bit cooler. Okay, so that is some of the stuff we can do with our picker. Let's do the indicator, show while focused. Okay, so notice what that indicator is. It's this little dot up here. So it's showing us where in that stack. Okay, that's alpha, that's width. If we change the size to fit content for that, I think we should still fill the whole screen because those images are big. Yep. Okay, so now, how do we click on one of those guys? All right, so that's an issue. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to start off by taking our picker. Well, actually, let's click on this guy. And let's go to our code assist dealy flippy thing here. And then I'm going to click on the picker. And we're going to control click over here. What we want to do is we want to have a function that gets called when this picker gets clicked. Okay? Now if I click on this picker and we look over here, slide this back out, we see that this guy has an action, a selector that gets called. All right? So we need to write that function. So we're going to come into our code here, and actually just for, let's see, I wonder, can I do that? Let me try a trick here. So let's bring up the code assist. Then we're going to click on the picker. And I click on the select. I thought I could cheat it.
I think you can. You're inside of a function right there. So if you go like down to the very bottom.
Oh, awesome. All right, so this will allow me to have it write that that thing for me. So actually, before I do that, was I able to do that before? Was I actually just in the function and didn't realize it? Yeah, I could. So it looks like it can go either direction. So we're going to go that picker was clicked. All right, so picker was clicked.
But that's
And this is going to be an action. Picker was clicked. Yeah, I had forgotten, so I'm glad you were saying something. All right, so picker was clicked is going to be the name of the IB action. So let's create that action in there. And then what we're going to do here, go into our code. And here's that picker was clicked. And notice that this guy gives us a value of what was clicked. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a print value. This should show us the index of what was clicked at the console. Front row. Oh, okay. Yeah. We're not actually clicking it. It's whatever when a guy lands on the top. When something lands on the top, that function gets called. So this is element 0 is the current top guy. That guy's the current top guy. So we can respond to things as we set the different top dudes. Okay? Similarly, what we can do is I can go ahead and throw a button in here. So let's go out here. And let's, oh, that's not what I want. I want this guy. And I'm going to throw a button after our picker in here. Or before our picker. Just call this which one. So it'll be the which one button. All right, and we're going to go ahead and bring up our code. And we're going to hook up a action associated with the which one button. So this is going to be an action. We're going to call this which one button pressed. Create that. All right, and this guy is going to go ahead and print out self.thepicker. Is it selected currently? I need to look at the documentation for picker real quick. WK interface picker. Set selected item index. So is it just item index or just index? Oh, I don't get direct access to what index was clicked? It seems very stupid.
I'm just wondering, could you go to the interface storyboard and just see if the that picker's sent action, that thing,
The selector will be set.
okay.
It'll be set to that function we wrote down here. The picker was clicked.
Okay.
So that's. Oh, hold on.
It's in that group.
Oh, right. It doesn't matter. That's fine. There's our picker. There's the send action. Picker was clicked. So the picker can't tell me what element is currently selected. I have to use his selector for that. But I can set the selected item index.
Could you just have the selector function just return the constantly?
Oh, I can set a value. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely get the value. I'm just, I was trying to show you an alternative way. Like, for instance, right now, when we're running this, every single time we change the position of it, it's calling that function. You know, index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and then, you know, so whatever one's the last one you landed on is the current index that's selected. We can certainly get the value. The question is why can't I just ask the picker directly, what is your current selected index, seeing as though I can set the current selected index. So it says that I can go in here and I can, so let's just take this out for right now. So our button's not going to do anything. So let's say after I set the items for the picker, I'm going to say self.thepicker.set selected item index to 4. So that means it'll default to bucket 4 as being the guy who's on top, which would be what, D4, D6, D8, D10, D12 should be bucket 4. Yeah, there's the D12. So interesting. So I can set the selected index, but I can't get the selected index. Picker.get. Very weird. Well, so in any case, then we should create a variable up here. Let's call this guy var cur selected index. All right, we can start off at 0. And then I'll take out the set selected thing. And then what we'll do is inside here, we'll say cur selected index is equal to value. And then which button pressed, we'll do a print self.cur selected index. And here I'm going to set this to the self dot. Not necessary, but I like to set a good example. So now, as we're manipulating the picker, which we can do with the crown, by the way, we'll start messing around with the digital crown a little bit, but it's already linked to the picker as an input method. So what we're doing right now is kind of what we talked about several classes ago. We're learning about all the widgets that we can possibly use in our apps. And then we'll start putting them together. All right, so every single time our picker is moved, okay, so really this is a poorly named function. Picker was clicked. It's really, you know, picker changed, picker value changed, something like that. We're going to set that global variable equal to whatever the current index is. Then when we actually click the which one button, then we're going to print out to the console the index of the guy that was clicked. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see this. And then I'll give you your homework assignment. All right, so I guess that's the last one. So I'll say which one, it says 6. Let's go to the one right before that, 5. One right before that, 4. Okay, so we are clearly setting the values of which one was clicked. All right, so for your homework, go ahead and bring your code up to date with this. So showing another view, I mean, you can do it all in the same view if you want, but I would suggest you just keep making views or interfaces that, interface controllers that show our new tools. But now when we click the which one button, have it pop up an alert having rolled the dice. Okay, so do what we did on the first screen where we pop up an alert when we click on D12. Now you're going to select D12 by flipping through here. When we click which one, the same alert should pop up saying showing D12. That makes sense? So multiple ways of kind of getting at the same information. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns, bribes. We'll probably do for a quiz next class too. Over something I've talked about at some point in the history that you've been in front of me. All right, I'll see everybody on Friday.
Easy enough.